All right, so today we don't have any presentation or script to run. Today we will just explore and understand how this one-to-one mapping works. In the last session where we left, can I go to the one-to-one mapping project that we have created in the last session? And we have created some service class. In the app service, we have done some stuff. I think we left here in the last session, okay? All right, so I have a question here for you guys, okay, before we get started. So now what we are doing over here in the line number 34, we're trying to find an ID of a student where we're querying from the student repository, trying to find the ID of the student, which is 1, and getting the data of the student and printing it over here. Cool. Let me remove this couple of statements right now. So we are printing the student data over here. So can I see my student information that I have over here? So the student has the ID, name, mobile, and also it has an address, which is having a one-on-one mapping with the student. Now here we have given something called the FetchType, which is lazy. So can anybody explain a little bit what this FetchType Lazy means, if you guys remember well?
When we use dot get on student dot get address, then only it will get loaded, or else
if I'll remove this, Vijay, if I'll remove this, then what will happen? If I'll call this method right over here, let's go to our main application. Okay, let me call this method over here. If I'll call this, what will happen? What is the select query which will be fired? Like the select query will have what kind of thing, Vijay?
it will have both student as well as the address.
Exactly. So in the one-to-one schema, right now we have the address and student. Do we have any address and student created? No. Okay. So let's just, before we start our application, okay, before we execute this method, let's just try to save some data. So we have a save data method, right? Yesterday we have basically created an address object and a student called Vilas object over here. So this address and the student both are the transient object, and we have saved them using the address repository and the student repository over here. Okay, so let's just try to utilize this method to save some data first. So I will go to my main application and I'll execute this method first. Can I run this so that my data will be inserted? Okay, so I should be, yeah, so there are some insert query to the student and to the address, and the data are inserted right now. So now what I will do, I will just comment it out the save data method, okay, and I'll uncomment the fetch student one record, right? So now my question was, if I will be executing this method, it will basically getting the ID of the student one. I'm interested to load the student data over here. So let's just see the select query that it is generating. And as Vijay was explaining, we're not only getting the student details here, okay, so this student ID and the mobile number of the student and name of the student. Apart from that, we're also getting the address related details because it is doing some inner join, and it's not only fetching the data of the student, it is also fetching the associated column with it. So right now, the student over here, this is the student data. This is the data for Abhilash, and he has an associated column of 1, and this student is right now having a one-on-one mapping of to the address table. Now it is also fetching the data of this while we are loading the student data. While we are loading the student data, it is also fetching the address data. And there you go. We have the we only want to print the student data, but the query it generated is also fetch the address data, which is a bad thing. And for that, what we have done yesterday, we basically have introduced something called lazy loading. Okay, and where we have put that thing over here, where we are defining the mapping. Here we are defining something called fetch, and the fetch type we are specifying as lazy. Okay, and by doing so, what is happening? The select query that this is firing right now, this doesn't have the address specific columns, right? It is not doing any inner joining. It is only fetching the student related data. and only when we are trying to access anything specific to the address. For an example, if I'll come over here, if I'll do student data dot get let's say get address, then from the address, let's say if I want something, let's say I want city, or I want the house detail of the student, or I want the state of the student, only when I'm doing it, and let's say I'm trying to print it, that time it is actually firing a query again, and it is hitting the database, and is actually running another SQL query whenever we are executing this line. So if I'll come to here we ran a select query to fetch the student. This is for this line, okay? And then we are printing the student over here, and then when we are trying to access the address object, that time it is actually running another query for the address. You can see it is fetching all the details from the address table, and then whenever we're printing the state, it is basically giving us Karnataka, right? So what is happening here behind the scene? Okay, so first of all, if I'll go to my annotator, as you can see over here, let's say this is your DB, okay, and this is your Java application which is running, let's say it is running in JVM, okay. So as I have told you before, so let's say whenever you are doing a query, you are basically fetching data from the table, okay, or data from the database, and whenever you are fetching the data, where those data are getting stored? Inside a container. Just like in Spring you have a container, here in Hibernate also you have a container, right? In Hibernate we have a container called session or session factory, right? But when it comes to JPA, we have the same thing called persistence context, right? We have something called persistence context, right? So whenever we are querying the data, let's say we are asking for the student data right now over here or to the database. Now what is happening? We are getting a student object back, right? This is your student object. Can I just make it a little smaller? 1 second. Let's say this is like once you have a query, you're asking for the student data, then you got your student data loaded into a object. So let's say this is your student data, right? Let's say you are asking for the data for ID 1. Okay, so those data are only getting loaded. But whenever you are basically doing a eager loading, if the student object has any association like address, it is also getting you that data as well. It is also getting you the complete address data over here as well. Let's say the address ID which is associated with the student is also 1. So it is getting you this object and this object at a time in the eager loading. So eager loading is not recommended pretty much in your application, because maybe if you have a lot of association with a particular table, the eager loading will fetch those data as well. For an example, the student table has an association with a entity called college. Then those data also will be fetched in the eager loading, which is not recommended. So what we are doing, we are going for the lazy loading. In the lazy loading, what is happening? In the lazy loading, okay, listen to this. I have a very important question after this. Okay, so in the lazy loading, whenever you are specifying the one-to-one annotation there, whenever you are writing FetchType as lazy loading and you are querying for some student data, it is only loading the student data like this. You have only the student data over here. Okay, let's say it is getting you all the student specific data for the ID 1. Okay, and for the student right now, if you're gonna see, you also have an association right here. Can you see this? For this student, let's say we have a student here, a Vilas. For this student, we have an association, okay? Association with the address, which ID is 1. So it has an association with this column. Right now in the lazy loading, what is happening? In case of the lazy loading, let's say it has an association, right? So it is not fetching the complete details of the address, right? Let's say this is the address object. It has, the student has the address object right now, but this is not a real object. This is a proxy object. Proxy means the data are not fetched. The object has not been initialized. Okay, so all is now is the primary key details. So the foreign key details over here, which is 1. For the address, that it knows that, okay, you ran a query to get the details for the student. So it fetch you that details and store it inside the object. And From the student table, it also found an association with the address which has an ID 1. So it just created a proxy object for the address. So whenever we actually need the address data, this proxy will be initialized. This object will be initialized. All right, guys. So everything that we have seen so far, that makes sense. But let's see that in action with a debug walkthrough. But I'm recording this video after the actual recording because there was some recording glitch. So I have to re-record this section again. So you might see that my UI is changed. I'm using Eclipse or STS right now instead of IntelliJ. So excuse me for next 5 minutes, but what it actually matters is how basically the code gets processed. So let's see the proxy in action. So first of all, in our application, I want to go to my main application that we have created. And here I will go to my fetch student one record. I will give a breakpoint here in this line. I want my code flow to stop over here. And also here, I want to drag your attention to this method. So here we have the student data. So we are fetching the student data over here. I will keep a breakpoint here. I'll keep a breakpoint here as well. And then I'm going to keep a breakpoint here as well. Okay. So I just want to debug step by step right now. So I will go over here, do a right click and start my application in debug mode. Okay. So I'll go here and debug as Spring Boot app. So let's the debug get started. All right. So I'm going to switch it to the debug view. And now let's just see everything in action. Okay. So I'm going to drag down my console a little bit over here. So my code flow is right over here in the run method. So it's stopped over here. So let's just go to the next point. So I'm going to do a step over and I'll go to the next part of the code execution. And here comes the main thing. So let me just, zoom out this a little bit. And I think everything is on my screen right now. Perfect. So right now I'm in my fetch student one record. So this line is about to get invoked. So my control is here right now. I am trying to fetch the student record for ID 1. Okay. So if you remember in the student, we have a 101 mapping with the address. And if you see the 1-to-1 mapping that I have over here, the face type is lazy. That means when the student record I'll be fetching, the address record will not be fetched. Okay. So what will happen if I'm going to execute this line? So let's just try to fetch the student data by executing this line. So let's just do a step over like this. And now it will fire a query. As you can see, I have a query fired for the student. And this is only bringing in the student related data, but not the address. But I want you to drag your attention to here, to the student data. And this is something that we faced it over here. Okay. So if I'm going to expand this, so I can see all my student related data over here, the mobile, the name, the student ID, and also it fetched the address data as well. But right now, this address is not a real address. As you can see, it's a proxy. It's address $, then Hibernate proxy, and there is something else over here. So this is this address field. So in my student data is part of the student object. And my student, whatever the properties are there, like ID, name, mobile, and address. You can see ID, name, mobile, they are actually initialized with their values, but the address is not initialized. And right now it's holding a proxy object. It's not a real address object. Okay. Let me go back to the service again. Okay. So what's inside our student data? Let's just examine it a little bit. Basically, I'm more interested into this address stuff, what this proxy is holding. If I'm going to expand this, you can see all these properties are null, non-null right now. I want to expand this internal property, which is a byte buddy interceptor. This is basically the proxy instance. It's a byte buddy interceptor. I think this is how the Hibernate is, basically exposing its proxy object by using this, API. If I go into this, I just want to drag your attention to a couple of flags. Okay, so here the proxy object this address variable is holding. Here you can see the initialized is set to false right now. That means this address is not initialized yet. And most importantly, if you're gonna go over here, you can see the target is null. Right now is not holding any data. The target is not holding any data. So the actual address object is right now null. And the proxy is not initialized, is false. Okay. And most importantly, if you can see this address proxy that we have, it also has a property called ID. Okay, so that's what I said. It only knows about the ID of the address. Okay, so with this student that you are trying to fetch, whose ID is 1, if you're going to have a look at my database right now, I have a student over here, which is a Vilas, whose ID is 1, and this ID is right now having the address ID 1000. As I said, I'm recording this video after the actual live happened because of some technical glitch. And here, this ID of one student is containing this address ID 1000. So here in my address table, imagine I have this 1000 record, which basically belongs to the student whose ID is 1. Okay, so don't worry about why this address ID is not 1 right now. Imagine the address ID is 1000 right now, and just ignore this table right now, and you will understand what this table is later part of the course. For now, the student ID 1 holds an address ID 1000. And if you're gonna go over here, when you tried fetching the student data over here, so with this fetch, you got all your student related data right over here, mobile name and student ID. But for the address, you got a proxy assigned, but that proxy is not initialized right now. But that address object, which holds a proxy right now, only have an ID assigned. And that ID is actually the address ID that the student has, that the student 1 has over here. Okay, right now, let's just print the student data. Okay, let's just print it, and here you go. You have the student data right now. You have one query fired to fetch the student data, and right now here I'll try to execute this line, which will fetch the state of the address. So out of the student data, I'm going to fetch the address, and from there I'm going to fetch the state. I'm going to actually capture the address, and from the address right now I'm going to get the state. So any of the other properties apart from the ID, if I'm gonna try to fetch them, then my proxy will be initialized, and you're gonna be having an idea about it right now. So where is our initialized property? Is here, is false. And look at this target property, it is null. So it can have a look at this and this, and you'll see that this thing will change whenever I'll invoke this line. Let's just go ahead and let's just do a step over. And you can see this mark over here. These properties are right now changed. Now, as soon as I hit the step over, this has been invoked. So you can see I have a query fired over here. And this query is actually bringing in the address related data. And those data later converted to an address object. And you can see my proxy is initialized right now, is set to true. And the target is no longer null, is actually contain an real address object. If you go inside it, you can see all these properties are right now initialized, right? You can see the city, hotel, state, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now I think you understand how this proxy thing works and how a couple of queries are getting fired. Before I basically switch back to the live, I want to show you one more thing. I'm going to stop this debugging over here. And if I will go back to my student entity, if I'm going to change this face type to eager right now, okay, you can see there won't be any proxy involved. Okay, I'll just do close. I'm going to use eager right now. And I'm going to go back to the app service. Let's start my application again on debug. Okay, now, okay, so here my flow is right now in the run method. I'll do the step over, and now I'm going to try to fetch the data over here for the ID 1. And you can see right now, I'll get my student data object right now. All my student related data will be fetched. but it will be one single query. With one single query, everything will be faced as I said before. But if you're gonna have a look at the student data object, he can see right now you got all your student related data, but the address is also faced. And this time, this is not a proxy object. It actually holds a real address object. This is not a Hibernate proxy object or some Hibernate byte proxy that we used to see before. This is a real object that has been faced in the single shot. So it's not very good for performance. Here in this case, I don't need the address related data. So I hope you actually got the point. So while you are debugging, I just want to tell you one more thing. In case there is no need to debug this thing, this is just for understanding, but in case you are debugging in lazy mode, okay, so make sure whenever you're debugging, let's say I'm gonna start my application in debug mode one more time. Okay, let my float come to here. First it'll go over there. Now if I'm gonna do step over, it'll come to here. And now if I'm gonna do step over, okay, now only the student data has been faced by this single query. And obviously right now the student data will have a proxy object. So don't click over here. If you're gonna click over here, then the address also will be initialized. So if you're gonna click over here, you actually want to see the data. And obviously it will be invoked again and the data will be faced. So while debugging, you can directly click over here on this arrow. But let's say if I'm gonna click over here as well, you can see I got the student related data, but here in the address, if I'm going to click directly over here, see now this address query has been fired and you can see the actual address data over here. So don't try to click here. Okay, if you're going to click here, then the proxy will be initialized. So in this case, you can see the proxy where it is. This is initialized and it's actually holding an address object right over here. Okay, so be very careful. Don't think like I am still in this line. This line has not been executed, but why this query has been fired? Because by mistake, you might have clicked over here to invoke the proxy. Okay. Now let's just switch back to live. I think this makes sense. Remember this. Right now, I'll show you a different use case also. But okay, just tell me about this one. Let's just see this code that we have developed yesterday. Okay. So here what we are doing, here we're trying to save some data. Okay, save data of what? Student. We're creating a address object. We're creating a student object. We're saving the address. Then we are saving the student. Okay. Now my question is, what will happen if I'll remove this line number 26? Okay. What do you think? What will happen over here? If I'll remove the line number 25 over here and I'm only saving the student here, then do you think it will save or will get an exception?
No, it will get exception.
What kind of exception?
Address ID is not there, right? Address.
So why do you think we'll have an exception? Why do you think we'll have an exception here? Yes.
One-to-one relationship, right?
Yes.
So one-to-one means it should be there, right? Foreign key.
Foreign key should be there.
Yeah, foreign key is not there, right? In address field.
Okay.
So address object is empty, right?
Correct. The address object is empty. So if I will run this, what kind of exception will have? So this is an object and we are giving the reference to here. So this is a transient object. This transient object we haven't saved yet, but we are trying to associate it with an object that we are trying to flush here, which is our student object. And I think the JPA is going to complain about it. Okay. So did we run this? Oh, okay. I think we have not called this method, right? Let's just try to understand this a little bit. Then again, we'll go to that proxy thing. So I'll copy this save student. I'll go to my one-to-one application and I will come in this one basically. And I will basically, want to call the save data over here. Okay. So now, now what I want to do first of all, I'll go to the application.properties and I'll make it create. Okay. So it will drop the table if it exists. Okay. So if I'll run, so I just want only a couple of columns in my database, one for the address, one for the student. Okay. Now, as we have, discussing here, what we have an exception and it just gives the same, exception over here. and you can see transient property value exception, object reference and unsaved transient instance. Save the transient instance before flushing. So the transient instance it is referring to is address. So it is saying that the object that we are trying to save inside the saved data here is the Avilash. Avilash is a student object right over here, but it has a reference to a transient object. Transient object means the object that we create but has not been saved or managed by the persistence context, right? Now this object it is asking us to save first. Now I don't want to do that. What I want, whenever I'm trying to save the student, right? This is a student object. Student is what? Student is the owner. Why I'm saying it is an owner? Because it has a reference of the foreign key. Okay, so whenever I'm trying to save the owner, I also want to save the non-owning side or the inverse side, the address data. Whenever I am trying to save the source, which is student, I also want to save the target related details if it is attached to it. So how can I do that? If I will go to the app service again, here we are basically writing that code. Here we are trying to save the source. Whenever I am trying to save the source, what I want here, I also want to save the target as well. So how can I achieve this? Anyone? So right now I'm trying to save the Avila subject. Yes, exactly. I'm trying to save the Avila subject. So I want to save the Avila's data. Also, I want to save this data as well. I do not want to explicitly call the repository save method of the address repository. Okay. So the way I can do that, as you guys told me, I can come over here and in the one-to-one mapping, I will introduce something called, what is that? Cascade. So can I write cascade is equal to CascadeType.PERSIST. Okay, so what I mean by that, whenever I'm trying to persist the source, which is student, I also want to persist the target. The target is address right over here. Okay, let's just see whether that is working or not. If I'll go to one-to-one application right now, if I'll run this method right now, I'm trying to save the owner over here, and I think the non-owning part or the target part is also going to be saved this time. So if I'll run this, let's just see whether our data for the student and address is getting inserted or not. Okay, and we should not get any exception this time. So let's just see that. Perfect. So you can see right now the data has been inserted for the address and also the data has been inserted for the student. First, the address data has been inserted because the student is going to have a reference to the address. So the address will be saved first by Hibernate and then the student is getting saved. Okay, so if I'll go over here to the MySQL and if I'll run this, you can see right now the student data has been saved and here is a reference to the address table and here goes the address related data. Okay, so whenever I'm saving the source, the target is also getting saved automatically because I have introduced something called the cascade type in my 101 mapping. Okay, and here I'm doing the 101 mapping. The student has a one-to-one relationship with the address and there goes my cascade type. Okay, persist. So whenever you'll be persisting the source, the target will be automatically saved. This thing is making sense? Guys, yes, no, questions, confusion? Can you please ask me?
Yes, sir, Lash. Yes.
So right now, let's just come back from this cascade thing, okay? Because I want to show, yeah, question?
Abhilash, so we are doing this cascade only to avoid just calling the save method of address class, right?
Exactly. So I just want, so what I want actually, whenever I'm trying to save the student object, I want the associated object or the target object of the student, if it has any, so that object also will be saved automatically. Okay, I do not want to save address before saving the student and I don't want to do that work by myself. Okay, that's the only thing. That thing is making sense, Prajakta?
So why, yeah, so my question is, how do we, like, why do we use this in real time? Like, why not just write save?
No, why do you want to write save? Let's say if you have 10 association right now, do you want to save all of them by calling their repository method right now, Prajakta?
Okay, so no, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead.
No, that was my question. Like, why
Yeah,
not?
right now only we have one association Prajakta, but maybe we right now this table is a very simple relationship, right? We have only dealing with couple of table. Right now think like the student has lot of association or a foreign key over here. So calling the save method doesn't make sense, right? Of each
Okay.
of each repository. So just save the owner, and the inverse side will be automatically saved here. If you have activated that cascade type on top of each property that you will be defining. For example, the student has another property here. Let's say private. Let's say every student will have something unique. Let's say Aadhaar card or SSN number, right? So maybe I can say Aadhaar card, right? Aadhaar card, and I can specify the one-to-one over here, right? I don't have any Aadhaar card class, but I can specify the one-to-one over here, and I can also define the cascade equal to persist for this. So you don't have to save the Aadhaar card specific details explicitly by yourself. Just set it with your student object. It will be automatically saved whenever you are saving the student object, right? Made sense, right, Prajakta?
Abhilash.
Yeah, okay. Guys, this thing is clear. Can I go to the next thing?
Abhilash, one more
Yes.
doubt, Abhilash.
Anil.
Actually, in cascade type by default, it's all or something.
I think cascade type default is none. I think there is something called
None.
none. The
Okay.
default, there is no default, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if I'll go back, all right. Now, why did I told you this thing right now? Let's just get into that a little bit right now. You understand this cascade type thing, right? Okay. Before going for the next question, I have also one more thing to introduce. So we have a lot of classes. Let's just close everything first. Otherwise, we'll be confused. So close all the tabs. Now I'll go to my app service. Here we have created a scenario where we are basically finding the student data first. And from the student data, we're actually getting the address detail. Okay. Now, I want you to write a method, okay, right over here, public void, and get, let's say, student data, okay, from address, okay. So what I want you to do over here, let's say you are basically getting some address specific data. For an example, you are calling to the address repository, you are using the address repository, let's say address repository, and you are basically, finding something, let's say find by ID, and you are trying to get an address. Let's say you're trying to get an address of ID 1, okay? And you are going to call the get method on top of this. Guys, just bear with me. My system is getting a little slow. So I'm just calling the get method of it. Now this is going to get me the address specific data. Okay, so I'm going to say it's going to get me the address and address data, right? So now what I want, I will be getting the address data for number 1 column, right? If I'm going to print it over here as out, and if I'm going to put address over here, I'm going to get the address specific data. That is like, it's pretty simple and straightforward. It is going to make a call and going to fetch you the address specific data. Let me just run this. Should I stop the record?
Abhilash, you have not called the method from
I have
anywhere.
not called the method, right? Control C. Let's just go to one-to-one. Okay. Control V, Control S. Let's just go to app service and let's just run this. This system is like gone real slow. I don't know why. Sorry guys, sorry about it. So we have a power failure here and I don't know what's happening right now in my studio. Okay, that's fine. So, see recording error. Come on, man. So, okay. So what I want to do right now, guys. So we have created a method called get student data from address, and we're trying to make a call to the address repository over here and getting the address specific data and printing it over here, right? So now what I want to call this method. So I'll go over here to my application and I'll call this method over here, okay? And I think in my properties file, this is create, I'll change it to update. so that it will not delete the previous data that we have, right? So here we're trying to call the address ID 1. So I think we'll get the address detail over here, which has the ID 1, this one. Okay, cool. So let's just see whether it is printing to the console or not. So let's just run this. And we'll be getting the address specific data over here. There we go. That's our address data. Now what I want you to do, I want you to give me the student associated with this address. Okay. Previously, what you did, you made a call, you get the student data, then from the student, you got the address, right? Now, what we have done, we went from the student to address. Okay. So let's say we have the student here. So from student, we have something called address reference here to go to the address and to fetch the address related data, right? Now what I want you to do, we have the address object. Now from here right now, I want to go back to student. For an example, here on my app service, I got the address data. Right now from the address, I want to get the student which is associated with this address. Now, how can I do it? Can I do something like address dot get student? We don't have any reference here. Do you understand what you want to do? So what is the solution for this? Yes?
Bidirectional.
Bidirectional relationship. Because right now we can go in one direction. From student to address we can go. Right now what I want to do, I want to go to the address class. Let's say I'm pasting the details of the address. I want to get the details of the student. So the first thing first, what I supposed to do here, maybe I need to define the reference of the student here as well, right? And then what I want, maybe I want to create the getter and setter for this, right? Can I do a command n and create the getter and setter for the student, right? Now, if I'll go to my app service, on top of the address, I can right now call the get student method like this, okay? And this is going to give me what? This is going to give me the student object, right? Command option B. It will get me the student data and I can print it out. Okay. But whenever I'll be printing the student data right now, what I'll be getting? I'll be getting the address data for sure, but the student data will be null. Can you see? Because obviously we have not done anything. I think it is not even what is happening over here. Error creating the bean name called entity manager factory. Why is that? Could not determine the recommended JDBC type for student. Oh, okay. So okay. So it is it doesn't understand like what this student is all about whenever we are basically calling this. Is that the thing it is saying? So if I'll go back. If I'll go to the student right over here, we have not defined any type for that. I think, is that the reason why we got an error? Maybe I want to get the data of this. So can we write a one-to-one mapping over here? Because obviously from address to student is also one-to-one. One specific address will be attached to one specific student, right? So I'm writing one-to-one right now again. Let me run this again. Am I getting an exception or not? Let's just see. Okay. Okay. This time we didn't get any error, but we are getting something called null. Okay. So right now, I think previously it was not finding the data for the student, right? That's why I think it was throwing us some exception. Now we have defined the mapping. Just like in the student side, we have a variable here called address. And we said that, okay, student has one address by specifying the one-to-one. Just like that, in the address side right now, I have introduced a variable for student, for a reference for student, and I've given this one-to-one right over here as well. Okay, so now it is just saying me null. But what side effect this might have caused? Let's just do one thing, guys. If I do this, okay, obviously we're not getting any data right now from the address. So that is one thing. So if I'll go to the app service, so we are getting the address data printed over here, but we're not getting the student data, right? The student data is obviously null over here. Okay, so we're not getting the data. So we should get the data right now. But what side effect it is causing? So if I'll go to this one-to-one application, okay, let's just do one thing. We have created the table when we are not modifying it because we have given update here. Okay, if I'll give create, okay, if I'll give create over here, if I'll go back to the one-to-one application and right here, let's say I will comment everything. I'll just try to save. Maybe I'll just comment everything and I'll run this application, right? I just want to create the table. I just want the table creation. We'll see what kind of side effect we are having right now. Okay. So I think the program executed successfully. If I will go to my MySQL workbench, if I'll run the student table, it looks good. Okay. It's created the student name, student ID, student mobile, and the foreign key over here is the address ID, which is expected because in the student side right now, we have given the address and we said, okay, we have a one-to-one mapping and this is going to be the join column or the foreign key. And that's how it has created this address ID over here. Now let's just go to the address table. Okay. And look at that. We have the address specific details right now, state, house, city. But what the heck is this? Student underscore student ID. Okay, so it is also trying to create a foreign key by itself over here in the address side, right? So we do not want a foreign key. So whenever in the address side, you are defining the student and marking it as a one-to-one, that time, this one-to-one, once you mark it, automatically it is creating a foreign key for you and giving it a name like this, right? Student underscore student ID. But we don't want that, right? What we want, we also don't want to give a join. If I'll say, okay, just give a join column over here and just name it. Let's say name is equal to, let's say, student ID. Then what will happen? It will just modify that that foreign key that it is creating. If I'll just run this, you can see right now, we'll have two foreign key, one in student side, one in address side. So now if you want to go over here, see in the student side, we have the address ID as a foreign key. And if you're going to go to the addresses table, and here now the foreign key name has been changed to student ID. So using this join column, we are basically modifying the, the foreign key column name. But we do not actually want to create a foreign key in the address side because we already have a foreign key in the student side, right? So the student side foreign key, which is address ID, is basically taking care how the student table has been linked to the address table, right? So in the address side, obviously the address side has a one-to-one relationship with the student, but actually we do not need this student ID column over here, which is the foreign key column. Right now, if you're going to click on this French mark, what happening is over here, they are basically creating a foreign key for us. You can see, and they're referring it to from the student table, sorry, address table to student table. We don't want this foreign key. So what do we want over here? So if I'll come over here to the address side, I'll say, hey, address side, we have a one-to-one relationship with the student table, but you don't need to create a foreign key, okay? Because the foreign key is inside the student table. The student table is managing the foreign key, okay? Here in the student entity, we have the foreign key, we have the join column, it is specified. We are creating the foreign key over there. So now we need to tell that to the address entity over here that you don't have to care how the foreign key will be created, okay? You just know that we have the foreign key is being managed at the student table. So the way we can tell them by using something called mappedBy, okay? So mappedBy, and the foreign key is mapped inside the student entity here using this address reference, right? So go to the student table, like in a student entity, check where you are having the foreign key, copy that reference name. This address is right now having this address ID, and you understand that how we have created this thing. Now go to the address side and tell you that you don't have to create a foreign key. If you want to see, like if the address want to check the relationship with the student, then the way the address can understand what student has been associated with it, it can go to the student entity and can check for this property called address. So now if you go to the student entity and check for this property called address, it will find, okay, this has been mapped to address ID. So it can go to the student table address ID, and it can understand, okay, if this is having 1, then it will go to this table and will find the address ID, which is 1, right? So that thing we have defined over here inside the address side like this, mapped by. Okay, so now let's just see the way it works. Now I'll go to my app service again. Okay, now I'll not do anything. Okay, first of all, let's just try to run this application. Let's just see right now. If I'll go to the MySQL workbench, in the address side also, there is a foreign key. I do not need this foreign key. I only want the foreign key to be present here inside the student table. Okay, let's just run our application right now. Let's just go to IntelliJ and run our application. Okay, so let it run. Now I'll go to my MySQL workbench, run this. Okay, the address table has a foreign key address ID. The student table has a foreign key address ID. Let's just go to the address table. Do we have a foreign key over here right now? No, we don't have any foreign key. The student ID foreign key is gone. Right now, the Hibernate or Spring Boot is not creating a foreign key inside the address table, isn't it? So if I'll go to my application right now, okay, and if I'll insert some data, okay, first let's just insert some data. App service. I think we have a method called save data, which will help me to insert a couple of records to my table right now. Okay, so if I'll go over here, so student has 1 record and the association column is 1. Go to the address table. The 1 belongs to this address. Okay, this address belongs to which student? The student which is having the primary key is 1, who is Avinash. Okay, I think this makes sense. Now let's just come over here. I do not want to delete the data again, or I do not want to create or drop the table again and don't want to create it again. I'll change it to update so that it will not drop the table. I just want to use the data. That's why I've changed it. So let's just go to the app service again right now. Now, this is the method that we are trying to develop. Okay, so we're getting the address data right now by making a query. Now, we're trying to find the student data out of the address, right? Now we are trying to print it. Now I feel whenever you're going to make this call called get student, the get student is inside, the student reference is inside the address class right now. Now I think the address can communicate with the student and look for the property called address inside the student entity. And then using this column, it will find the details of the student, right? So I think this is how the address is right now look for the mapped by property and going to fetch the detail of the student right now and will give it to us. And right now, I think this is not going to give us null. Let's just see whether that is happening or not. Let's just run this. Okay. Am I calling this method? Oh, I don't know if I'm calling this. Copy this and go to this one. I want to save the data, by the way. I want to just paste it and call this method. I think it might have inserted one more record as we have changed it to update. Okay, it might not have dropped the table. Instead, it might have created another record over here. Okay, not a problem. Now let's just try to call this method. Okay, now let's just see the magic is happening or not. Let's just run our application. Okay, let's just see whether it is printing both the address data and the student data or not. See, the address data is here, right? Why we're getting the address data? Because we're printing it over here by making a call. Now from the address, we are right now getting the student and trying to print it over here. And there goes your student data. And how address knows about it? Using that mapped by property that you have specified through OneToOne. Okay, so go to the address and here goes how you have defined the relationship. Guys, these things making sense. Now you got the data over here. From the address, right now you're getting the student data. Okay, you can also get this right now. Now look at both of this method. Go to the app service. So here we are first getting the student data. From the student data, we're getting the address, right? Now here we are getting the address, and from the address data, we are getting the student data over here. Okay, so we can go in both direction. We can go from address, from student to address, and address to student. Is it making sense, guys? Yes, no? Guys, making sense or not making sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
guys? Okay. Now I have a very important question. Okay. Now look at this. Now, look at this. We are trying to print the address. Okay. Over here. Forget about all this thing. Okay. Let me just copy this method. Okay. And I'll just, maybe this is also making sense. Okay. This fine. Maybe I'll comment out. Maybe I'll just create a new method. I want to delete it because I'll give you the code. Okay. Let's say I'm just changing the method name. Look at this couple of statement here, 59 and 60. Now tell me, you are basically making a query, right? You're getting the address data over here and you're trying to print it over here. Cool, making sense. Okay, not a problem. Now tell me, whenever I'm making a query, this address that we're going to be getting, do you think the query, this find by ID method will generate, it will also include the student data or it will not include the student data? Do you understand my question? The select query, it will create a select query, right? It will fetch the data for the address. While fetching the address data, do you think the student data will be fetched by doing some inner joining?
In address, you are writing the toString method?
In address, toString method. toString method,
Yeah.
no, I don't have a toString method there.
So it is not getting then.
It is not going to get it. Depends on the face type. Okay. Did I put a face type here in my address side? This is my address side. And we have something called student over here, which has a one-to-one mapping. Okay. But I haven't mentioned the face type here, Venu. So do you think whenever I'll be fetching the address data over here, it will also fetch the student data?
Abhilash, yes, it will fetch because it is a one-to-one
Default is
mapping.
eager
Is
fetch,
eager,
right?
right? One-to-one is eager. Yeah, you are saying that. So if I will go to the address, we have mentioned one-to-one over here. In the address, we have student, we have one-to-one. Go into this, the fetch type, where it is, fetch. The default is eager. So what do you think? The select query it will generate, will it fetch the student data also while fetching the address? Yes?
Yes.
Let's just try to run this. Okay. Why to think about it, right? It will fetch the student data. So we have the address stuff here. Okay. We have the student stuff here, student mobile. The student name is here, right? We have, it is doing some inner join, left join, and combining both of the table based on the ID and fetching the data. Oh, okay. All good. Now I have a question. Okay. So if I want to suppress this, whenever I'm printing the address data, I don't want the student data, then what should I do? Guys?
Lazy loading.
Where? In the address side?
In the
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So let's say fetch is equal to let's say FetchType.Lazy. Okay. Now let's just go to the app service. Okay. Let's just try to run this. Let's just see what is going to happen.
Exception.
Why do you think so? There is an exception. There you go. This is the data, right? So 1 second. Select query, Hibernate select.
We are not calling
Okay.
that method.
I have not called that method. Yes, again.
We are calling that method. I want you to see this situation. Look what is happening. Okay. 1 second. So this is the method we're calling, right? This is the method we're calling. I will just write two sysout statement. Guys, don't get confused. This is just some code I'm writing just to show you this scenario. Now let's just write some stars here. Okay. So basically we're trying to fetch the address details over here. So what we're expecting this find by method right now will fetch the address specific details only because the student data will not be fetched because we are mentioning the face type as lazy. for the student data. So it will not fetch the student data, right? It will only fetch the address data, and the student will get a proxy, right? So only one query will be fired for the address. One select query will be fired, and there should not be any joining. Okay. Now let me run this. Let's just go to this one-to-one. Sorry, let's just close this one-to-one, and I'm calling this method only. Okay, I need to call this method, right? Copy this, and now go to one-to-one and paste it. Okay. Now let's just run this. Okay. Let's just see what is going to happen. So I have some star mark here. So we'll see like between the star mark, what magic is happening. Okay. The star marks ends here. The star mark starts here, right? So the star mark starts here. And after the star mark, what I'm doing, I'm making a query. Okay. Find by ID. I'm trying to get the address data over here and trying to print it. So I'm expecting that the select query will be fired. And inside the select query, we should not get any student specific data. And it's happening. There is no student data. There is no inner join is happening. The query has been changed by Hibernate. Okay. Then I should be printing the address. Okay. Now the address is being printed over here. But before that, there is another select query for student fetch. It is fetching the student specific data. We mentioned lazy loading there. It has the first query generated for the Hibernate for the address doesn't have anything specific to the student. Makes sense. The next query that it has again, now here it is fetching the student specific data over here. Why? I only want to print the address over here. I'm not even calling any method of student. I'm not saying address.getStudent.getStudent name. I'm not calling any specific property of the student, right? Now why the lazy loading is not working? Is my question make sense? Why there are two select queries fired over here? Why one query has been fired, which is student specific query, which is fetching the student specific data? All I want the address related data only, right? And I have implemented the lazy loading, as you guys have said, over here. Okay.
Yeah, can you remove the lazy loading and run it again?
Okay, if I'll remove the lazy loading, what you are expecting? If I'll remove the lazy loading, what you're expecting? Whenever I'm fetching the address data, the student data will also be fetched using a join, correct?
Right.
Using a join. Yes. So let's just see. Here I'm making a query. So between this star and this star, you'll be seeing one select query, all right? Which has the joining. Okay, let's just see. Okay. We have the stars over here. 1 second. What happened? Did I clear it? 1 second. Let's just run this. So look at this. We have the stars over here. The queries goes like this. It is facing everything, doing an inner join, and there goes my address data. Now the lazy loading, why it is not working? Isn't it? In the address, you are basically specifying the lazy loading here, FetchType Lazy. Now you're expecting that whenever we are only getting the address data right over here, we should not get the student specific data, right? So there is no need to fetch another query for the student, right? We only need the address data over here. So this should only generate the address specific query. And for the student, we should get a proxy. But look at that. 2 queries has been generated over here. And there goes my address data. What's happening?
Maybe you have written the mapped by address, so it's trying to.
But it should not try to. So this one saying mapped by address.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe.
So, but it should not try, right? It should not try. I'm saying it's lazy, right? No need to get the value for that. No need to get the value for address, right? I don't need the data for that. It is lazy loading. Whenever I'll be needing the data, you make a query. Is that making the question made sense? The question you guys understood, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but what is the answer for this? Why the lazy loading is not working? Simple. Okay, let's just go to the app.
Is it student is parent? Is it because of that?
Oh, student is what, Digna?
Parent means student is holding the foreign key because of that.
Exactly. Exactly. So basically, whenever you are making a call, that's what I want to hear. So whenever you are making a call, let's say where we're doing that, the student thing where we're doing here, right? Face student one record, right? So let's just see what is happening over here. Face student one record. I'll copy this. I will go to the one-to-one mapping and I'll change this method. Inside this method, what we're doing, we're loading the data for what? The student data we're loading. And let's say I will not call this one. So I'm basically loading the student data and printing it over here. And in the student side, I also have a one-to-one mapping for the address. Okay. But here the face type is lazy. That means when the student data will be loaded, the address data should not be loaded. Let's just run this. Okay. Let's just run this right now. And we should have only the select query, okay, for the student specific thing. We don't have a join query over here, which will be also facing the address specific data because we are only printing it. But I told you whenever it will face the data, what I told, let's say annotator, if I will do this, okay, if imagine if this is your DB, okay, if this is your DB, this is your application, and imagine this is your JVM. Inside your JVM, you have a persistence context. You make a query, and the student data got pasted. This is your student data. Okay, this is the student data which got faced. And right now, with the student data, let's say it got the name, it got the ID, it got the mobile number for the student, which ID is 1, right? And now the student is also having a foreign key, by the way, right? Look at this. If you come over here, the student is also having a foreign key here, right? The foreign key is 1 for the address ID. So let's say whenever you're trying to face the student data for the ID 1, it also knows that it also has an address present in the address table which ID is 1. So Hibernate has idea that this student entity has a reference to the address table where there is a record exists for the address ID 1, right? And that's the address for the student, right? And that's why it was pretty confident about it, right? And that's why for this, it also have address, but address data it didn't fetch. The address data it didn't fetch. For this, it has created a proxy with ID 1, right? This is your address object. But this is a proxy object, right? Like whenever we're basically trying to access any of the properties of our address, then only this proxy will be initialized and the select query will be fired for this ID 1 and it will try to fetch the address ID 1 related data. But whenever we are doing what, let's say if I will remove this. Now understand guys, if I have if I'm trying to paste this address specific data, right? Let's say I made a query and I'm trying to fetch the address specific data. This is the address data. There are a lot of properties. I'm fetching it, right? Now this address, when Hibernate fired a query for address, right? Hibernate fired a query for address and fetched the data for address. Now when Hibernate is making a query, it is also seeing here. Let's say if you come down, here you're making a query for the address. So whenever you're getting whenever you're making a query for the address, in the address, we also have the student which has a one-on-one mapping. But Hibernate has no idea that whether a student exists for that address or not. If you're going to see this table, address table, okay, can you tell me this address ID 1 is associated to which student? Without seeing the student table, can you tell me this address ID 1 is associated to which student? Can you tell me that? Without seeing the student table, can you tell me that, guys?
No.
No, right? Because there is no foreign key here. There is no foreign key present in the address side. So if you'll only paste the data of this, then you don't know whether there is a student associated with it or not, right? So now what basically happened here, it fetched the address data. Now it also sees that there is a one-on-one mapping for the student, right? So right now, it is going to try to create a proxy right now. Why it will try to create a proxy for this, a proxy for student? Because you have mentioned here, inside the address table, you have mentioned this student and you mentioned the face type as lazy. Okay. Now, it might try to create a proxy for the associated object, which is student. But it don't know whether that student, there is actually an association exist or not. Okay. Whether that address that we have in the address table is actually linked to any of the student in the student table or not. Without seeing the student table, it cannot confirm that, right? So if it is null, the proxy cannot be created over a null object. That's why it actually made a query right now and pasted the data of the student, right? And it is actually a real call. This is not a proxy object. It's actually made a call right now and basically face the data of the student as well. That's why you are seeing that select query, because in the address table, we have no other option to know. If you want to see this table, we don't have any foreign key over here to understand that whether a student is exist for that particular address or not. So if you want to do that, you need to make a query to this, to the student, and you need to find an association whether that address ID 1 is assigned to any of the student. And that's why you can see there are two, two select query, which is getting fired, right? So if I'll go to the app service right here, and if I will copy this, okay, where I'm trying to face the address related thing, if I'll come to the OneToOne main class, and if I'll call this, you're going to be seeing I'm only fetching the address data, but the student data is also getting fetched. Okay. So there are two select queries over here. Is that making sense right now, guys? Yes, no?
Abhilash,
Yes.
Abhilash, I have one question.
Uh-huh.
Here, while creating the proxy,
Uh-huh.
it needs to have only the student ID, right? Why it is fetching all the details it's another query, it is fetching the student ID, right?
But in the address, when the Hibernate is trying to create the proxy for the address, Swati, for the address, how come this let's say it is trying to face this address, this object, right? Now how come it will know what is the foreign key, what is the student ID? We don't have any information, right?
Yes.
Whenever it is creating the proxy for this, okay, we understand that there is a record present in the address table which ID is 1. But for address, we don't have any proxy for, we cannot, we need to make a real call. We need to see inside the student table if this address has been assigned to any of the student, isn't it, Swati?
Yes. Yeah, that I understood, Abhilash. But here, instead of getting all the data, since we don't know what is the student ID, so it is enough to get only the student ID by getting the select.
But it need, okay, you are saying, okay, it will enough to get the student ID, and it might have created a proxy for that,
proxy
right?
for that. Yes.
But you're actually making a call to that, right? You're actually making a real call.
Yeah, since we are making a real call, so it is better to get all the data, you mean, right?
Exactly. And also, what about in one okay, I'll show you one thing. Okay, let's say I have a record here. Okay, Hyderabad, let's say G3, and let's some KR lane where this guy is staying, and let's say this is in Telangana. Okay, now we have this address. Okay, we have one more address. Okay, is this address is linked to any of the student here? No. Right? So there is an absolute possibility when it is, let's say it is like, it is going to look for the association in the student table right now. Now, that it will not find anything. Okay, there is no student associated to that address. So the student will be null. So the proxy cannot be created for a null thing, right? For a null object, right? Proxy means what? You are creating a proxy object. Proxy means whenever you are calling to the proxy will call to the real object. But if there is no object exist actually, for what you're going to be creating a proxy for, right?
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Guys, all this thing made sense? so far? Lavanya, questions?
Hi, Ablash. I have a question
Hi.
here.
Yeah, Sarath.
Okay, so can't we avoid that second select query? What is happening while we fetching the students? I mean the address then.
No.
The
Over here,
the
no.
conclusion.
The Hibernate will be calling this, having this call over here. Okay. There are a few
Okay.
other things I'll be explaining. The question that Horst was asking me, I did avoid it. The same, your question has relation to that only, right? So I'll give you a workaround, but yeah, it will, for now you understand, like, it will be creating a couple of queries like this. If you don't have the foreign key exist inside that table, Sarath.
Okay.
Okay.
But a where clause, right? Like where condition it is giving.
The where condition, it's just taking the ID, right?
Oh, okay.
It's taking the ID. It's not a join column. That's it. So let's not talk more about it today because there are so many things are there in this concepts. But guys, did DIA make sense? Or I think we had a little bit of disturbance in between. So like the concepts are clear or something I confused you guys? I may maybe try to give you the similar KT in the next session if I have confused you guys. So can you just tell me yes, no, confused? Thanks, Digna. But the others, Namrata, confused?
Clear, Abhilash, but I have one doubt.
Please ask me.
Yes, in address table, there is one data with address ID 3, right?
Correct.
And which is not linked with any of the student.
Exactly.
So is it possible in one-to-one mapping that we are having entry in address table, which is not linked with any student?
Yes, we can. We can. Now I have a question for you. Can we enter a data over here? Let's say I'm in the student table, by the way. Namrata, student ID is 3. There's a mobile number. I am not assigning any address ID over here for the foreign key. Can I create this column? Can I create this row over here inside the student table?
No, Abhilash.
Yes.
No?
No.
Yes. Foreign key can be null?
Yes.
Yeah. Database concept, guys. Database concept, basic concepts. Yes. Yes. You see it? The foreign key can be null. Now you might wonder, like, what the heck is this? Why? Why it is null? See, you can create a row like this with a foreign key null. Foreign key can also be null. It also can be duplicated, right? In one-to-one, I told you that address ID should not be duplicated. But in one-to-many, you'll be seeing one student will have many address ID. Same address will be repeated over here also. That's fine. But let's come to this null scenario. Why the foreign key allows null over here? Imagine you have a student, okay? The student has enrolled, but he has not given you the address. Think logically, okay? Don't think too much coding wise. Think logically. Let's say Namrata is a student. She has enrolled over here. And now she is a student. So she given her details. But the address detail has not been given. There is absolute probability that she might update her address. Let's say this is her address. She updated her address later and later will come to this table and can update the foreign key over here, right? This will also work fine. Okay, so the foreign key can be null, right? So there is an absolute possibility that you can create a row over here which is not linked to any any rows in the address table. And here also you can create address a entry to the address table which is not linked to the student table. That also can possible. Make sense? Make sense?
Yes.
Any other questions, guys? I think I confused you today. I don't know why I'm feeling this. So, Benu, I will ask in order to verify the address ID 1 second. Let me read Benu's questions. In order to verify the address ID association with the student object and determine if the student object is valid and can decide whether to create a proxy or not. Correct. It's kind of correct, Venu. Yeah. That's the thing. Right. So this is correct. Basically, in the address table, you are defining the one-to-one mapping over there. So it is directly making a call. As simple as that. In the address, you have the one-to-one mapping for the student, right? And whenever you are basically fetching the data of the address, there is no foreign key over there which can tell you whether there is a student associated with the address. This wise makes a call again because it wanted to create a proxy, but if it is null, there will be a problem. That's why it's made a call and fetch the entire detail of the student. That's why you are seeing a couple of queries over here. That's it. Any other questions, guys?
So Abhilash,
Sarath?
so the final conclusion is, so whenever we are doing a bidirectional call, so it will automatically make I mean a select query in the source table as well, irrespective of whether we are trying to do it as a lazy
Exactly,
fetch or.
exactly, sir. Like 99%, yes. 1%, I'm putting a star mark. We'll be clarifying it in the next class, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Whenever I'll be giving you some more KT on some other stuff. Okay.
So, but in case of warning side, I mean, when we are triggering it from the student side, then we can restrict it by putting it
We
as
can make it lazy, and you should restrict it. You should restrict it to performance reason. The same question what Prajakta asked, right? If one table has many relationships, right? If you're gonna keep facing all the data by doing inner join, it will be a huge performance issue, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. Got it.
Archana, question? Okay. Question?
Abhilash,
Yes.
Abhilash, like here, the difference, here when we keep the lazy, so it is triggering a second query, right?
Correct.
It is triggering a second query, and when we keep like in the address side, when we keep the eager, it is not creating the second query. Instead, it is joining with the left join. So which one is better? So in any way, it is doing lazy. It is doing it is calling like two table like two times. It is called like one will.
This thing you should not bother. You should not write this, Swati.
Okay.
There is no use of it. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Just like that. Now, one more thing. That's why I'm not giving so much priority to my words, whatever I'm saying, because we have just seen some limited scenarios. There are some other scenarios as well, which can also blow your mind. Okay, we'll discuss about this and we'll talk about this right now.
Okay.
So yeah. And a lot of things, the warning side has more power. So you don't have to do much thing for the warning side, like the student, right? But for address, okay, this is the inverse side or the non-owning side. For this, for everything you have restriction. That's the thing that you guys have to know as a developer. Otherwise, hours and hours, just try debugging different things. Nothing will work. Like, okay, everything is correct according to my understanding. Why this thing is not working? That's pretty much important to understand all these concepts. So yeah, one more session we'll take on this 101. Then once you understand one mapping properly, the rest of the things are pretty easy. You don't have to bother about it. Okay. So many to one, many to many, one to many, these things will be like a cakewalk. All right. So that's it then. If you don't have any questions, we'll drop off.
Abhilash, not related to this topic. Do we have plan for Kubernetes and Docker?
I will be adding the Docker. I will be coding everything with Docker with my next microservices batch, Digna. You don't have to study Docker, by the way. That's not a prerequisite for your microservices. Okay. I will be covering it in your next session. Even if that's not included in your previous course that you have taken, that will be going for free. Okay. And the microservices will be using Docker Kubernetes both. So don't worry.
Okay.
Abhilash, also one more thing. Do we have anything on the entity type with blob type anywhere in our playlist? Blob type.
Selenium Express is not there. There is another portal. I'll give you the link for that.
Okay. Because this one question I have faced during the interview, so I could not able to see it during our playlist. So
Which question, sir?
The blob thing. Blob data type. While creating an entity, they were asking how we will handle the blob
got
data
it.
type.
Okay. The large objects, right? Yeah.
Correct.
All right, then. That's it,
Do
guys.
we have class tomorrow, Abhilash?
No, Prajakta. I'm thinking to take one more session on Wednesday. I had a plan actually for a couple of sessions more. So maybe on Wednesday we'll have session, or maybe 2 sessions I'll take next day. By the time you guys are completing those prerequisites, right, Prajakta? So I want you guys to invest on time or something else, because I do not want to give you a long gap where I don't know. I know you guys are working very hard and completing all the stuff. But yeah, these things are remaining. So just utilizing the time a little bit. So I think a couple of sessions more I'll take on this mappings, and I'll announce it on your group only. So stay tuned for Wednesday. Okay. Lavanya, any questions? Hemant?
No, Abhilash.
No, fine.
Okay. All right then. Okay then.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Then see you guys on Wednesday or Thursday. I'll just post it on the group. Okay. Thank you so much, and do practice your prerequisite. We'll talk about the prerequisite stuff more, and I'll track your progress on the next session. Okay. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.